Hi, welcome to the L Cube Show. Please do subscribe to the show. Do not forget, click the subscribe button. Today we're going to talk about the great Shivaji Maharaj, Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and we have a historian who has given the full story of Shivaji Maharaj, his life and main events and what was he like. That's the basic intent of this podcast. Like, why is he remembered to this date for being such a great king, for establishing such a great empire? So we are trying to dig into what kind of a person he is, his values, his morals. So the best part of him is that he respected women. Like, he, in his empire, his women were taken care of and respected. So that's the most important thing about Shivaji Maharaj. And let's get into the show and know more about him, the great Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And some people with love call him Shivrai. Please do subscribe to the show. We have amazing podcasts coming up. So please do subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Hi, Saili. Welcome to the L Cube Show.
Hello, Pratyusha. I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you. We have Saili here, who is a historian and an archaeologist and an organic farmer. I don't know, the list goes on, but let's stick to the historian part for today, because she's going to enlighten us about Shivaji Maharaj, the king of Maratha Empire, right? He's like, everybody knows about Shivaji Maharaj. So tell me what is your knowledge about Shivaji Maharaj, and educate me by starting from his childhood, where he's born and in what family, and what were the circumstances in India when Shivaji Maharaj was born.
Okay. Shivaji Maharaj, his complete name is Shivaji Shahaji Bhosle. He belongs to a family of Maratha feudatory or a commander of the army, Shahaji Maharaj, and in fact his entire family history goes where his grandfather Manoji Raje Bhosle was also fighting for various Shahis in Maharashtra. Now, to give a background, you might know that in 15th century we had the great Vijayanagar Empire ruling in the Deccan Peninsula. Five of the commanders of Vijayanagar kingdom rebelled, and the entire kingdom was devastated and divided into 5 different Shahis, which are called Imad Shahi, Barid Shahi of Bidar, Imad Shahi, then we have Adil Shahi of Bijapur, Nizam Shahi of Ahmednagar, and Qutub Shahi of Golconda. So there was this entire fragment, and there were constant battles which continued to 16th and 17th century. So these Maratha chieftains were given various jahagirs, or the piece of land, as either present which are passed on hereditarily, to in exchange of them fighting for these respective Shahis. So
they are for the Shahis. They are working for the Shahis.
For the Shahi. So Shahaji Maharaj was serving Nizam Shahi.
So but then, it means that Vijayanagara Empire is against the Shahis, or it's also for the Shahis?
It was totally destroyed. We lost the entire empire. The entire city of Hampi was reduced to shambles, ruins today. Even if you go, you'll see those things.
Yes.
And we had this different leaders or commanders ruling from their respective region. These are regional ones. They do not have very large kingdoms, but they're constantly fighting against each other. And above this, we have the great Mughal dynasty ruling from Delhi. So right from Babur onwards till in 17th century, we come to Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, who are ruling almost 2/3 of India at that time. So the situation was that the local population was constantly experiencing battle. It was also a period when we had many droughts. There was a major depression, and there a lot of loss of economic activities because of all these battles and raids that were happening. So people had kind of lost the confidence in the governing bodies. As against today, we do not have welfare states in those times. So we had all these monarchs who are just trying to forward their own agenda in conquering more and more territories and raiding those territories and amassing the wealth and so on. So very few efforts can be seen where the local population, like farmers or traders or the fishermen or the women for that matter, were looked after, taken care of, given some sort of a security in living. So this situation was even reflected in many of the saints' poems that we see, right from Ramdas and Tukaram and so on. Because they have been narrating how the people or the masses are suffering because of all this situation. And this is also the time when we have all these Portuguese and colonial powers like British and French coming to Indian coasts. So they are also trying to raid the same country, trying to enter the power struggle that we witness. And Mughal Empire is seen having a very great ambition of engulfing all the peninsular India as well. So they are not just happy with the northern part or the Persian Empire or so on. They want to come down and also amass the great wealth that the peninsular India had to offer.
So while you have all the Shahis here, what was happening down in Tamil Nadu and Kerala? Who was ruling there at that time?
There were some local empires, or there were what we call Nayaka rulers or the Paigars who were ruling there. But again, they came under the direct rule of many of the Shahis. So if you ask me, Shivaji Maharaj's influence or even his father's influence doesn't stop only in Maharashtra. We know that for a certain time, Shahaji Maharaj was even posted to Jinji in Tamil Nadu, in Tanjavur, where we see a significant Maharashtrian population migrating. And even today, if you go to those areas, you will find this Marathi population still holding to their Marathi roots and also kind of mixing with the local Tamil culture and bringing about a very different kind of entity for that region. So that was one of the strongholds for Marathas. So Shivaji Maharaj's stepbrother comes from Tanjavur. Yankoji Raja Bhosle.
So the father was already a chieftain under the Shahi.
He was already a chieftain, and but he had some germ of establishing his own rule. So what he was doing was he was definitely trying to be as just as possible, and he was siding Nizam Shahi for a while and trying to protect the prince, young prince of Nizam Shahi against other powers. But Mughals wanted to engulf Nizam Shahi from the top, from the north, and Adil Shahi wanted to engulf him from the south. So he also had to compromise a bit and then change hands. He went with Adil Shahi once because there were some problems with internal politics in Nizam Shahi. He went with Mughals for a very small bit, but then he again returned back to Nizam Shahi. But ultimately, Mughals and Adil Shahi succeeded in engulfing the entire Nizam Shahi kingdom. So he had to side with Adil Shahi, and then he was posted to the south. First, he was posted to Bangalore, and then later he went to Tanjavur as well. So, but what remains of him in Maharashtra was his Jahagir. Jahagir or Watan is a piece of land which is kind of gifted or granted to that chieftain to collect the taxes and kind of rule. So he has his own self-rule. So that was in and around Pune and Supe area. So what he did was he sent Jizabai, his wife, and young Shivaji Maharaj to Pune to also revive Pune, because Pune was totally destroyed, and there was a great political terrorism that was kind of spread by Adil Shahi Sardars, where they tried to shoo away the population. They did not want anyone to inhabit Pune. They wanted to kind of, they had put a kind of a sign there to not to inhabit Pune, or something bad will happen.
What will they do without any inhabitants there? Like,
no, they call it Gadhvacha Nangar Firone. So it is like you have the ass drawing the plow through the land to kind of make it wasteland. They had shifted the center of Pune to one nearby fort, and they had shifted all the moneylenders and the saukars there. but they did not want anyone to rule because they thought if we allow Pune to flourish, Shahaji Maharaj will again take prominence and he will again try to maybe rebel, or
Okay,
it
but
will kind of
wasn't Shai Maharaj working under them in Bangalore?
No, but as I said, it's an internal politics. So he was shifted to Bangalore, and as a punishment post kind of thing,
Okay,
because
but
he
still he's working
ultimately
in
came
his,
from Nizam Shahi.
okay, so but still he's working in his place, though
Yes,
he's
yes.
posted over there.
So his
Okay.
Jahagir remains, but then
Okay.
Jizabai and young Shivaji Maharaj had to start from scratch, right from building small dams to kind of assuring all the farmers to come and cultivate, making sure that there are no crop raid by wolves there. What they did was they reinstated the local deity of Pune. So we have this concept of village deities. So
Yes.
Pune has a village deity called Kasba Pune, Kasba Ganpati. So they restored the temple back. So that kind of instilled a lot of confidence in the locals,
But
and
how did
people
they let
started
all
coming.
the but how did they let all this happen when they already you, as you said, that they plowed around and said that this is not supposed to be inhabited? How
No,
did
they
they
kind
let
of gave back a wasteland to Shahaji Maharaj. Okay, now take this back, sort
also
of
in,
thing.
in that he started doing all this stuff?
Yes, and he was also helped by Dadoji Kondev, who
Mm.
was also looking at the Jahagir on behalf of Shahaji Maharaj then. And
Okay.
we see that Shivaji Maharaj coming back to Pune and kind of wandering in the surroundings of Pune, in nearby Sahyadris, there are forts around. He gathered young teenage friends along with it, and he was very, observant. So we see that Jizabai, since his childhood, has been telling him about all the injustice that had happened. We know that even Jizabai also comes from a chieftain family,
Okay.
and her father was and brothers were killed in the Adil Shahi court. So we had all this very bloody history behind it, and she had that anger, a very vengeance in her. So
Okay.
she made sure that Shivaji Maharaj, since his young age, has a very strong ethical and moral backbone,
Okay.
and a sense of purpose, a sense of focus for assertion of one's own values in life,
Okay.
and going beyond all these petty fights that the kingdoms were undertaking.
Okay.
So that we see is a inspiration that Shivaji Maharaj carries throughout his life, and his vision reflects what Jizabai has dreamt for
Okay.
him in the
Even as a
childhood.
teenager, he did work for all this stuff.
Yes, yes. Right from the age of 14, 15, he has in fact punished the nearby. We have this, like Gouda, we have Patils
Okay.
ruling in the villages. So there was this Patil from a village called Ranze who had raped a woman. So he
Okay.
actually got that Patil arrested without fearing his power, brought him to the Darbar and punished him severely by actually cutting off his legs and hands, arms.
Okay.
So that was like a shock for the entire population, that such a young teenager, a chieftain's son, taking a stand and making sure that such a heinous act doesn't go unpunished. So that reinstated a lot of trust in the local masses.
Okay.
It's a quite a revolutionary act, if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah. And what happened?
So,
Like slowly, what started happening? Like how did
so
he take?
what he did was, we have a very Shivaji Maharaj's history is intercepted with all these very dramatic events, and they even feature in most of the textbooks that we have.
Okay.
His teenager friends actually went to Raireshwar, and they took an oath of establishing the Swaraj
Oh,
when he was young, in teenage years, and they went on to actually capture the nearby forts from the Adil Shahi. There were some forts which are just lying in ruins, or there were very few soldiers who were manning the post there. So these people actually managed to capture Sinhagad. They managed to capture Torana,
mhm,
which is one of the tallest fort in Pune district.
mhm.
And initially, no one really looked at it. Like some guy doing something as
Yeah.
his childhood hobby, or not
Yeah.
very serious, etc. But then they saw that he is slowly taking force. Then someone complained in Adil Shahi, and even Shahaji Maharaj was summoned. But then Shahaji Maharaj just kind of shrugged and he said, I don't know, my boy is not in my control. You do whatever
Okay.
you want to do with him,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the Adil Shahi Sardars were sent to kind of pacify him. So one of the main Sardars we come across is, of course, Afzal Khan, and that's a very dramatic
What is
episode.
that? What is that one incident you would say that actually, put him in the picture in front of the Shahis? Like, okay, this incident is like they recognize
Afzal
that.
Khan's assassination is one incident where he really came into the picture. It
Okay,
was
so
just
why did Afzal Khan come here to talk to him?
no. So Afzal Khan was one of the contemporaries of Shahaji Maharaj in Adil Shahi court,
Okay.
and he was ruling Vai region, which is near Satara, which is to the south of Pune.
Okay.
So he was known for his very strong power, and he was like a 6 foot tall guy, very Pathan-like look, very strong, very egoistic in that sense. Who thought this was like some mountain rat? He actually called him that. And he was sent to kind of, as I said, pacify Shivaji Maharaj. So what Shivaji Maharaj did was he went to Pratapgarh, which is a fort he had taken from another of the chieftains, Chandrarao More, who was again not very, not very good
How old was
governing
Shivaji
that
Maharaj
person.
at this time?
He must be around 25, 26 years
Okay.
old.
So
Very young.
until from teenage to 25, 26, he was just doing his part in his area and then taking over some of the forts.
He actually got all the rulers of these valleys. We have all the valleys named as Khore,
Okay.
Hidras Mawar, all this Mawar area or the Sahyadri areas. He got all these parties and rulers to come and join him.
All these 10 years that was happening.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Okay.
And he made a lot of changes also. He
Okay.
also, in that sense, was thinking about this self-rule or the
Okay.
Swaraj. So that
Okay.
was early in his mind. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, we cannot.
And how were the people's lives when the Shivaji Maharaj was starting to do all these things? Did it like they evolved in agriculture and all these patterns in these 10 years before the incident of the Afzal Khan happened? How are the people?
No, we see this great peace. Just one incident was this Ranjit party, but we see that many of the farmers returned back to Pune. The new pet areas, we call pet areas, are this medieval, market areas which were set up. So they started flourishing.
So
The
there
trade was on the
is
rise.
flourishment happening. There was flourishment happening at the time.
Yes, and he actually made lot of changes in the taxation regime. Okay, he learned from his father and Dadoji Konde, who learned from Malik Ambar, who was an African slave at Nizam Shahi court. He has another very interesting journey. Malik Ambar was an African slave who was serving Nizam Shahi, who rose to a position of Prime Minister of Nizam Shahi.
Wow.
And he had revolutionized the revenue system, which was later followed by these people. And he got to know, even today, if you ask me, as a farmer, we see that the market rates suddenly drop down when all the produce comes to the market.
Yes.
Then, it's very difficult to control the market rates, but we see that Shivaji Maharaj coming up with very ingenious ways of making sure that the rates are balanced. He started taking the taxation in kind. He had most of, I mean, if you look at the amount or the percentage of tax that is being implemented, it is the biggest amount, or it's the largest portion. But because it was taken in kind, people had this
taken
security.
In what? Sorry, I didn't get that word.
Taken kind. So instead of paying in cash, what you do is you pay the tax in kind.
How?
By giving the grains itself to the government.
Okay, right.
So by doing that, you kind of do away with this pricing politics that happens during the essential harvest season.
Okay, right.
So that sort of things were done. Plus, he also made sure that there are farmer loans, which is such a revolutionary concept in 17th century.
Yes.
So one can actually, like, there are a lot many things to talk about how he tried to actually end the feudal practice that happened, because everything was passed on hereditarily. He made sure that people are accountable for their jobs and the employment, and he stopped it almost like by not giving few more watans or jahagirs. Instead, he had salaried people.
Okay.
In those days, we do not have a standing armies. What we had is, like, we had farmers who would cultivate during the rainy season, and after the rainy season, they would take their horse to serve the ruler.
Okay.
That's how it was. And then that soldier is given the 2-3 pair of clothes and maybe a sword of his own. That sort of arrangement was there. So it was not a very metal was hard to come by. It was not a very rich sort of state that Shivaji Maharaj ran, but he made sure that there are no loans that he would take. So, and he had made sure in later times to even fill up the empty treasury that had resulted because of drought and other reasons, because of the raids from other empires. But coming back to Afzal Khan, we see that he kind of played coy, Shivaji Maharaj. He said, "Oh, you are my uncle. I'm really scared." So, coming back to Afzal Khan, we see that Afzal Khan, being a contemporary of Shahaji, is like a very formidable figure. Shivaji Maharaj plays coy and says that I'm really feeling very guilty and ashamed for my acts. So I want you to come and guide me and help me. I'm really afraid to come down to Wai. Why don't you come up to Pratapgarh? Because I have fear for my life. If something bad will happen,
Shivaji Maharaj said this to
said this to her. He has like all these letters written about, really playing, and kind of feeding the ego of Afzal Khan. And Afzal Khan was like, no, this is like a mountain rat. I'll just crush him under my feet. There's nothing to worry. Let me see. Now he is like really, realized his mistake. Now it's my time to guide. But still, he was in that sense alert, because he took the entire army with him up to Pratapgarh. Now, Pratapgarh is right in the Sahyadri hilly region. Okay. And it is also covered with dense forest. So for him to take all this cannons all the way, the elephants on the way, they were rolling down, already half of his army was like totally frustrated with this entire travel to Pratapgarh. And then they established the Shamiana where they were supposed to meet halfway to the fort. Of course, Shivaji Maharaj was, thinking of the worst thing that could happen to him, but he had prepared and made sure that his entire army and all the people trained in guerrilla warfare, that was his thing, where he would make the surprise attacks. Even with a small amount of infrastructure, you could, really devastate and, confuse the army. So he had all these tactics he has already used and, honed over the years. So he had hidden some bit of the army there. And when he went, so Afzal Khan, as I said, and Shivaji Maharaj was around 5'6", 5'7", not a very, tall chap, but very sharp eyesight, very observant, of course. And there were bodyguards, both bodyguards were outside the tent. And he went to kind of hug Afzal Khan, and even Afzal Khan came to hug him. And Afzal Khan tried to put a knife in his back.
At the first meeting itself.
Yes, I mean, they were just, it was like do or die. I mean, both were as cunning as possible.
But wasn't he going to come here to pacify him, like not to like...
Yes, but he was also kind of not, see, he had his own problems or politics with Shahaji Maharaj also, Afzal Khan. So he was not someone who was really going to favor Shivaji.
Okay. So this is all act on the outside.
It's all act, huh? So but because the Shivaji Maharaj is wearing the jacket, he couldn't pierce through. But Shivaji Maharaj was wearing what we call Vagnakha, which are kind of, here you have this nails.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it called Bagnak, right?
Bag is tiger, the nails. So these are like hidden like this, and he actually brought out the the entire intestine of Afzal Khan.
Wow.
And later, of course, he was killed by the sword, and his bodyguard rushed, but Shivaji Maharaj's bodyguard also kind of defended this Sayyid Bandar. He was a big Pathan looking guy. And without anyone realizing what has happened, suddenly they started attacking the already frustrated Afzal Khan's Adil Shahi army. So it was a total mayhem, total chaos, and they did not just stop there. I mean, someone who has killed Afzal Khan would, sit back, relax, enjoy, celebrate his victory.
Yes.
But Shivaji Maharaj had made sure that his Senapati Netaji Palkar and other people would travel down south, travel to Konkan, and occupy and take over all the Adilshahi areas. So they went up till Kolhapur and further, almost till Bijapur, and conquered the entire territory in the next 2 days.
In the next 2 days?
Yeah, so imagine the kind of swift action that would be, riding on the horses to reach these areas, to take over the territory.
And it was completely unexpected, right?
Totally, like someone who's playing coy and doing it in just next 2 days. I mean, no one even believed him. Like when they got the news to Adil Shahi Court, people were totally, awestruck. What has happened? How can such a formidable commander like Afzal Khan be killed in such a manner, and we have also lost the territory?
Yeah.
So the surprise attack was something that Shivaji Maharaj has really mastered. Guerrilla warfare, as I said, just though he had very small resources to do it, but he had a lot of faith in people. I would say that he made sure that he trusted people, and he actually inculcated a lot of values that he himself believed in the people.
Okay.
So it was also like almost like creating many Shivajis, or the versions of Shivajis, who were equally brave, who were equally dedicated, who equally shared the vision that he had. That actually made his. So it's not like one person thing. It is
because particularly with Shivaji Maharaj only you can see this kind of effect. There were a lot of other rulers in India, and then who actually they were also against some of the Mughals, and later after the against the British also. But with Shivaji Maharaj, whomever you speak to, like whenever they're talking about him, you can find one more Shivaji Maharaj in them. Like literally.
So we have these movies like Tanaji, where the Tanaji Malsure goes and conquers Sinhagad back. So he's ready to even give lives of his brothers and his kids, and stop his family affairs to aid the cause of Swarajya.
He was like actual leader, like the proper leader, proper
really inspirational leader who had a great vision, I would say, because what Shivaji Maharaj laid foundation, which in 17th century, it was just a meager kingdom of say 2, 3, 4 districts maybe, but it went to become a Maratha Empire in 18th century, which conquered 2/3 of India, which went beyond to present Maharashtra, India's borders till Attock, in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So you can imagine the kind of influence that it had. It inspired many things. It was not just some brave heroic episodes like Superman. He also had a vision, and he had a great compassion for people, their cause, and making it good for people. So there's this benevolence in people is something that is rare you find in all these medieval monarchies, I would say.
And we have to discuss about his navy also. I think that's one big thing everybody talks about Shivaji Maharaj's reign, navy. So what is it about that navy he has established that still we speak about it to this date?
Yes. We have very few examples of indigenous naval powers in India. If you see, we have
and one more thing, the area which you were talking about, I don't think that's a coastal area. Pune and all that, it's not coastal.
No.
But when he came down south towards the Konkan, that's the coastal area. So when did he establish the navy and made it strong like that?
So when Konkan was a very important area for him, because the sea coastal trade that happened along the Konkan coast was very, very beneficial. And there you had different powers. You had in Mumbai, you had British. In Goa and Vasai, you had Portuguese. You had some small areas of Portuguese even in around Raigad and so on. And then there was this Abyssinians called Siddhis, Habshi or Siddhis. These are the East Africans who had migrated in many centuries back and settled on the coast of Maharashtra. There are some in Karnataka as well who are of African origin, but they have now mixed with the culture. So they also had some of the forts. So one of the very important fort is Janjira, which we know of, where they had it was almost like a sea for stronghold, huge stronghold, and totally inconquerable. Even in fact, Shivaji Maharaj also tried to conquer it, and after him, Sambhaji Maharaj, his son, tried to conquer it, and they couldn't get through. It was that difficult. So so all these clashes with other colonial powers and the regional powers, Shivaji Maharaj thought that we cannot just have forts on the coast. We need to also have this naval power which will help us, control the trade, because the trade brings the revenue.
Yes.
So, and all the rivers, the west flowing rivers, you could bring the ships right, almost 100 kilometers inside. So all along this, so the entire coast was like intercepted with all these creeks. So, and we needed, he also built new forts. So one of the very important forts that he built was Sindhudurga, which is in Malvan, which would control the coastal produce and trade and revenue from the Karwar and even from Mangalore onwards. So it was a big area that was being controlled. So he tried to learn all the skills from Portuguese engineers. Plus, he also applied his own engineer's mind. For example, the area around Malvan is generally not good for ships because it's a very shallow land. There are not many coral reefs. So any normal person would just, discard that area saying that this is not a good area.
Yeah.
He actually designed new kinds of ships which are shallow bottom ships called Sangameshwari ships. And only a person who is knowledgeable would kind of be able to, maneuver in the sea and reach the port. And he did not just build one solitary fort. He built fort system. You have a primary fort, you have secondary forts, then you have other strongholds and observational points from where you could attack. So he did all those things and used very, very interesting and simple techniques. A fort like Khanderi was built in a hurry because there were British and Habshis attacking him. So they threw this big rocks all around the fort, which would grow barnacles. Barnacles, this.
No, what is that?
Barnacle is like a sea animal which has very sharp edge. It's like a shell that is created. This million blistering barnacles in Tintin that the captain always keeps.
Yeah.
You cannot walk on those rocks because it's sharp. It will just cut your feet. So those kind of grew around all those stones, and it made it difficult for people to enter the fort or reach the fort wall. He also made many innovations in the fort building techniques, I would say, that were extremely ingenious. So, which was responding to the new technology available, like hiding the fort entrances, making sure that there are all this, chorwata or secret ways to get out of the fort. All sorts of things. So I think that helped him a lot. And he actually managed to further it. So we have, after him, we had Angrez doing the entire thing. They were like so famous, and they were called pirates by the colonial powers for all the right reasons, because, the colonial ships were getting raided for not paying the revenues and so on. Even if you watch something like the movie, which is our movie with John Depp, Caribbean. So the Pirates of Caribbean features all the world-renowned pirates which has Angrez from Maharashtra. He's shown as a Sardar there, but he's actually a Marathi person. So it's a historical character in itself. So after Shivaji Maharaj's foundation, we see that next 100 to 150 years, we have Peshwas and Angrez continuing with the naval power.
Yeah. And so he was coming down south, and then what was his empire? Like how far did he go From the south to the north, and how far
So
did it go?
almost on the tip of Maharashtra, the northern
Okay.
Maharashtra,
Mm-hmm.
from there along the Sahyadri region
Mm-hmm.
and Kokar region to entering the Karnataka. So
Okay.
and entering the Karnataka, and then there were patches right up till Jinji and till Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
So it was so people only imagine his empire in Maharashtra, but he has equally bigger empire in South, and he actually had a campaign called Dakshin Digvijay,
Yes.
where Dakshin Digvijay, where he actually went south and got all these chieftains under him. And he
Okay.
did not really interfere in their rule, but he tried to kind of lay some new systems there. And his
Okay.
brother was ruling from Tanjore, Yankoji. So he
Okay.
tried to even evoke his help, but it was not that great actually.
Can we talk about this attacking of Shaistan camp at night time?
Oh,
What is that
yes.
story?
Okay.
So
So
when did that happen, and what is that story?
around say 1660s, this happened
And
after.
why also? Yeah.
So now, say Afzal Khan was the Adil Shahi commander, but Shivaji managed to kind of upset the Mughal powers as well.
Yeah.
And through that, we see that Aurangzeb sends his maternal uncle, Shaiste Khan, who
Okay.
was actually Subedar of the Dakhan, to tackle this Shivaji problem.
Okay.
So, and now being a Mughal, Shahi Khan came with a huge army, like more than 1 lakh people. And when he acquired the area in and around Pune, now Shivaji Maharaj did not stay in Pune for long.
Okay.
In initial years he did, but then he thought a fort stronghold in mountains would be a best bet. So he left Pune, though Pune was under his regime, but he actually went and stayed in Rajgarh, which is a nearby fort.
Okay.
So Shahi Khan came and occupied his own palace, Shivaji's palace, Lal Mahan.
Okay.
And his entire army then started raiding in and around this area, which we call Mawar, Pune,
Okay.
around Pune.
Okay.
So Shivaji Maharaj, of course, was upset that his the local population is suffering and so on.
Yeah.
So, and it was really difficult to get through because he would not stand a chance if there was a straight-on battle.
Okay. Yeah.
Head-on battle. So what he did was they entered the Pune city through under the garb of a wedding procession.
Okay, so Shivaji Maharaj and his army.
Yes, and not army, just like 16 odd people, 16, 20
Oh, that's
people.
it. Okay.
Yes, they entered and he knew his surrounding because he had built his own house, right?
Okay.
So he managed to get inside, and he actually chose a date which was very interesting when people were kind of laid back. They did not really bother, and he directly entered Shaiste Khan's chambers.
Okay.
And then his wife started howling, and also Shaiste Khan started running, and that time we see that Shivaji Maharaj, mostly Shivaji Maharaj, cutting his fingers while he is kind of climbing down a window.
Okay.
And so on. But then they could not stay and they had to run back. So he did not end up killing Shaiste Khan. But it really shocked Shaiste Khan into thinking this was totally unbelievable for him. A person coming to this almost more than 1 lakh army into his own private chambers and daring to this dare was something that actually instilled a lot of fears. There are accounts of British and other travelers during those times who tell that maybe Shivaji Maharaj is not one. There are 2-3 Shivaji Maharaj. Maybe he's a ghost, or he has this superpower where he can appear everywhere, anywhere, or disappear.
Okay.
So and Shivaji Maharaj loved to spread all these rumors as well.
Yeah, it's good.
Actually promoted that. It was quite beneficial. So that actually instilled deep-rooted fear in Shaiste Khan, because Shaiste Khan was not well versed with this mountain fighting, guerrilla warfare. He was a normal guy who would fight head-on and generally make sure that the army takes care of the battle, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then that kind of made him go away, and it was such an insult that the Mughal emperor's maternal uncle is being,
chopped off.
Another thing what they did was during that night, in order to confuse these people, they put this fire torches on the horns of bullocks, and then they drove them to a totally different direction in Katras, and these people ran in other direction. So
they thought it's people actually running with the torches.
No, the the bullocks running with the horns, on fire.
Yeah, but the army thought that it is people running with the thing.
Yes, and they chased them for a long time before realizing that these are bullocks. So that was so we have a phrase in Marathi called "Katratcha ghat dakhone." So you kind of double cross someone. So you use this term. So Shivaji Maharaj is perpetuator of many such terms where he has fooled the enemy.
Yeah.
This incident kind of shook Shaiste Khan, and Shaiste Khan's wife actually had to beg for his life to Shivaji Maharaj. And he was called back by Aurangzeb, who was totally embarrassed, and he was sent to Bengal as a punishment. He did not even, but while going again, Shaiste Khan managed to scrape off the wealth of this area and raided people on his way, which kind of was a sad thing, I would say. But that time the entire Pune had this look of a military camp. Pune was not a big city that time. It was a small town. They were just wanting to grow, but suddenly you have this, it was swollen with this army of 1.5 lakh people.
So what is this incident with the Agra fort where he has to escape from the fort?
So after Shaiste Khan, we had like series of people being sent by Mughals on Shivaji Maharaj, who we managed to kind of, fool or get.
But he took control of the Pune fort, right? He did take control of it later.
We do not have a Pune fort. It was just palace. It was his residence. It was not fortified place. He actually discouraged fortification on ground, because he thought that fortification on ground creates unnecessary attraction for enemies to come and conquer it.
Yes.
And it also kind of encourages people to become more feudal lords with lot of alishan bangla and haveli, and then they start exploiting and abusing their power and people around. So that's why he had actually erased some of such fortifications to the ground in his career.
So but the Rajgarh fort, it's not a fort?
It's a fort, but it's on the hill.
Not on the ground.
He preferred hill forts and the coastal and sea forts.
Okay. That's smart.
That's smart. Yes.
Yeah. So the Agra incident, what happened after Shaista?
So one formidable enemy or the commander that was sent by Aurangzeb to him was Mirza Raje Jai Singh, who actually managed to take a very important fort called Purandar and area around Pune, and the kind of exploitation of people was something Shivaji Maharaj could not see, and he had to enter the treaty with this Mirza Raje Jai Singh.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about this, because Shivaji Maharaj was actually fighting against all these people, but there is a point where he had to come back and work with them for a bit of a time, right?
So he entered this treaty when he kind of he accepted Aurangzeb as his emperor, and he was
for the sake of people. For the sake of people,
and he had to give away a lot of forts. 23 forts were given, but there also he managed to play very play clever. What he did was if there are two parts of the fort, he named it differently and added them as two forts.
No, you have to explain that more to me.
So if you have a citadel, there are two citadels, for example, or there are two parts of the forts. You name it as one fort here and one fort there, and instead of giving one fort as a complete fort, you write names of two forts. And you increase the count of the number of forts that you would give.
Right.
And it was not cross-checked, or I think people did not know. So he kind of managed to fool them in that sense as well.
But why did he have to go under the treaty? Like, what made him do that? Like, for the sake of people, I understand that. But what was that incident that, because until then, Shivaji Maharaj was trying so hard.
Purandar is one of the very important forts. And he lost his commander also there, Firangoji Narsar. And he saw that even though people are giving their lives for me and for Swarajya, we are not able to, take on this collaboration attack. And it was not just Mirza Raja Jai Singh, he had other people who were supporting him, like Diler Khan and other people who were also onto him. So it was difficult time for him. So he kind of,
Okay,
and
maybe.
as I said, 17th century in Maharashtra is we had lot many droughts and famines. So
Okay.
people were already suffering, so he did not want them to suffer. So
Okay.
he just retreated back a bit, and
A little bit, yeah.
to pay his obeisance, he had to go to Delhi.
Okay.
So that's why he traveled with his young son. He made his young son Sambhaji also as one of the feudatory of Aurangzeb, and they were supposed to make a presentation for some occasion on the birthday of Aurangzeb. So
Okay.
they went there, and he was actually seated in the back and not given enough respect. So he was extremely furious and he walked off. And that was noticed by Aurangzeb in the Darbar itself.
Okay.
So that was quite a daring act. I mean,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't control himself, and he just walked off saying, "This is not." And then he was then kept under watch, not arrested as such, but it was like what do we say?
House arrest kind of a situation.
Yes, it was a house arrest. Yes, I mean, life's warranty was given by this Mirza Raja Jai Singh, saying that you are with me, I have brought you, so it is it's my responsibility to protect you.
Yeah.
But then later, Shivaji Maharaj thought that maybe even Mirza Raja Jai Singh may not be able to save him if something happens.
Okay.
Because there were many people against him. So what he started doing was he said that he was falling ill, and he has become really ill and severely ill. And what he did was he sent all his paraphernalia back to Maharashtra and kept very few people.
Okay.
So people were confused, and people were also relaxed. Now Shivaji Maharaj is not going anywhere. He's like, here we can do whatever we want with him, and we'll make sure that he repents and pays his dues of. But when he started sending all these gifts to the saints and all the noblemen around, so that they will give him dua, they will pray for his health and so on. So he was trying to create this facade that he's in a very low moral and he's really depressed, he's sick.
He's sick.
Now he thinks God is the only way where you can do something.
Yeah.
That sort of. And suddenly one night he actually now the anecdote says that he sat in one of those gift boxes and ran away. But he might have maybe changed his appearance, and he actually ran away and took an entirely different route to come to Pune.
Along with his son.
And he also sent his kid to Kashi to stay with one of the
Before he came? Like
no, they escaped at the same time.
Same time.
And on the way, he had to, it was such a difficult thing. He had to actually tell the Maharashtrian people that his son has died. He kind of, in order to protect his son in Kashi, and later he fetched him back. Because he thought young Sambhaji Maharaj would not be able to travel so much at such a fast pace. So it was a very difficult situation which Shivaji Maharaj accepted.
So when he came back to Maharashtra, so what was the situation like at the Aurangzeb's court? Like, how did they take all this, like the escape and everything?
No, they were furious. And he also sent a letter pacifying them, saying, I'm so sorry, I was not in my good mind, but I was really fearful. Please forgive me, etc. He sent a letter also to pacify Aurangzeb, but then he very proactively started taking the entire territory that he has lost.
Wow.
And he actually won back almost the entire territory and something more. So he did that. So this Tanaji incident that we know, where Tanaji Malusre went and reconquered Sinhagad, was after coming back, he started taking back all the forts.
And how was the relation with the Mughals after that?
No, very bad. They were total enemies. And in fact, Aurangzeb had to descend to Deccan to take care of Shivaji Maharaj after his death, Sambhaji Maharaj and Rajaram. And he actually passed away in Deccan itself. When Aurangzeb came down to south, he couldn't go back ever. He passed away in 1707.
Okay, so but when is Shivaji Maharaj coronated?
Shivaji Maharaj was coronated in 1674.
Okay, so after all this coming back from
After
Agra
he
and
took the
everything.
forts, and yes, he did the Dakshin Digvijay, and then he coronated himself
Okay.
to assert his, because he was being called as mountain rat or an usurper. So
Yeah.
instead of that, I will assert my right as a king, and I will declare. And it was not just, he did not just believe in raiding people and amassing wealth. He actually wanted to form a state. So if you see, he has commissioned books like Rajya Vyavhar Kosh, where how do you run the government or the kingdom. He has written books on that. Like, he has commissioned books on that. He has commissioned book which is called Ajna Patra. These are his statutory orders that are given.
Okay.
So he also gave different terminology. In that time, if you see, the Marathi of the 17th century has many Persian words. He tried to give alternative words for that, which are more Sanskrit origin words.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So he did encourage the traditions and Sanskrit in his quotes also, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
He coined his own currency.
Okay.
Made so we have this Shivrai, which is the normal currency, and during his coronation, we have Hon, which is the gold coin that he issued, and to start the era, Shiva era is starts from 1674, from his coronation.
Okay, but he started all this from when? 1600, early 1600.
1674. Yes.
No, the coronation is 1674, but when he was teenager, so how far is that? Like,
No, I mean, the Rajavava Kosh, etc., has been it is a work in process.
okay.
But these things are released at that point.
Actual coronation is 1674, but he was working all his way through and all.
Yes, yes.
How old was he when the coronation happened, approximately?
See, he's born on 1630 in 1630s.
Okay.
So 74 is like just hardly
40s.
44.
Okay. And about
he did not live long, actually. If you ask me, he just passed away in 1680.
So that's 50 years.
Yes, 50 years.
Oh, okay. Right.
So he was very young.
Yeah, very young. Yeah. So what is the cause of his pass? I mean, like passing away?
He fell ill and he passed away, actually. Though he had founded Maratha Navy, he was not someone who was good at seafaring. I mean, he would throw up, he constantly fell ill. And when he came back to Raigad, he fell ill, and then after that he passed away. I mean, there are some anecdotes and gossip about him being killed, but they do not have any corroborative evidence, I would say.
Okay, so he passed away due to sickness. And then the empire was given to his son. So who took
Yes, Sambhaji Maharaj. There was a bit of a tussle between Shivaji Maharaj's wife, one of the wives. He had 8 wives. Sohirabai was his main wife, and Sambhaji Maharaj was the elder son. But then Sambhaji Maharaj took over. And after Sambhaji Maharaj, we see that Rajaram, the Sohirabai's son, took over. He also passed, he tried to fight back with Mughal Empire, but then he had to run to Jinji to protect himself, and he passed there. So he was pretty young.
Okay, and after that, what happened to the empire? After Raja?
Then we still see that even though, even during Sambhaji's times or Rajaram's time, then Rajaram's wife took over, and she was fighting against Mughals.
Wow.
And Sambhaji's son was taken as a prisoner by Aurangzeb, who was raised in Mughal camps, and he was released in 1707 after Aurangzeb's death. But we see that even though there is a lack of leader at the apex, Marathi commanders were kept on fighting.
Yeah, because
they did not give up.
But what he instilled in them is like, we see it till to this day. That's what, like, whenever you talk about anybody in Maharashtra, it's like you have that Maratha spirit, you could say.
Yes.
Like, it's huge.
It's a warrior caste, but before it used to fight for others. It never fought for itself, for the combined rule, the self-rule. So this Swaraj concept is very important.
Okay. Take the Swaraj concept as the earliest fighting for freedom?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
I mean, generally people say 1857 is when we started fighting for freedom. But I would say Shivaji Maharaj was quite a visionary, and he in very early years identified that all these colonial powers are going to be a great threat. So he did not
But by that time,
entertain
those
or
people are only traders, right? Like Portuguese or
no, but they
British.
were slowly spreading their
No, no, no.
feet and
When
wings.
in 1700s, they were only traders.
Yes,
But he did
yes,
have a
but
vision
he
that these could, okay.
yes, and he negotiated very hard with them. He did not like just like today we have this, foreign direct investment, or you have these different rules for outsiders and the local
Mm,
population.
mm.
Similarly, he had different tax regime for the colonial powers and different tax regime for his local people. So he made
Okay.
sure that they don't, and this colonial powers were playing very nastily. What they used to
Mm.
do is they used to suffer whoever is winning. They would provide arms to the Adil Shahis. They would provide cannons to
Opposites.
huh?
Opposites.
Typical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Divide and
So
rule. It started.
yes, so that was something he picked up very early on. He actually had few prisoners who were British, who
Mm.
had one called Henry Revington, who had provided cannons during one of the siege of Panhala. So he was very strict about that, I would say.
Okay.
And that is reflected even in their writing. It is reflected that this guy is very shrewd.
So
And
who were his other supporters who were who had their regimes in other parts of India?
we see that in later times when Mughals descended to Deccan, he actually tried to make peace with Govardhana, Qutub Shahi, and even Adil Shahi, the next rulers, saying that we Dakhan people should maintain our rule as Dakhani people. Why do we want the Mughals to come and fight?
Okay.
He was a great diplomat.
Okay.
That's a very interesting thought, I would say.
Yeah.
So he tried doing that. He, of course, he had some treaties with the colonial powers. He received a lot of support in South, I would say. There are
Yeah.
lot many Karnataka people and other people.
I'm sure there must have been more changes if he was alive for more time,
Yes,
50
yes.
is quite
I would,
young.
yeah, definitely. I would say that Maratha Empire would have spread, it would have spread to greater area, and also the influence.
And who knows,
Because
the colonialism must not have taken the path which it had taken if Shivaji Maharaj was there. Who knows?
yes, yes, who
Yeah,
knows?
because the way he is going at, I don't think it is anyway, near to happen. Yeah.
You also do know of the Surat loot, right? In order to
No,
fill
no,
the
please.
treasury and losses that happened. So, in order to fill the treasury and the losses that happened because of all these frequent raids by Shaistik and other people, he actually went and raided Surat, which was the main trade city in the Gujarat twice.
So
And
that is
looted.
by Aurangzeb's. It's under the Aurangzeb's.
It's under the Aurangzeb with all the other colonial powers having their factories there, and many traders who are trading with the Middle East and so on. He went, and when people would never think that a person would get away from his territory from Pune all the way to Gujarat, raid and come back. No one.
Yeah.
And the commander of the city actually he hid behind the walls. He just gave up on fighting with Shivaji Maharaj. So Shivaji Maharaj and his soldiers actually went around all the places. They dug out the havelis which had treasuries, stashed away here and there. Got all the treasuries down.
Okay.
Made sure that no one is being raped, etc. Because that was his thing.
Okay.
And I think the Dutch factory and British factory tried to oppose him. So he levied some taxes. He did not ransack their factory. I wanted to share a very interesting fact that so in that news there is this officer, British officer, who is writing to Aleppo. Aleppo is in Syria. And then the letter goes to British Empire. So then he is writing that since past few days there has been this raid from Shivaji, Raja Shivaji, who thinks he is a master of the country. How dare he come and warn and threaten our people in Surat? But because of him, everything is in shambles, and all these Bania people are now running towards Mumbai. So already we have bad policies of Aurangzeb. So there is no protection in Surat for good trade. So we will have to shift to Mumbai now. And from there, we will have to do the trade to Africa and South East Asia and so on. So we need to start, building things in Mumbai. So I would say the Surat loot is one of the reasons that Mumbai flourished.
Yeah.
Because it kind of drove them back. So it was very interesting to see how they So first they use he thinks he's virtually master of the country and how dare he, but later next 20-30 years they start using name Raya Shivaji. So
Yeah.
they start acknowledging his stature
Yeah.
as king. So it's
Yeah.
a very interesting thing to see how, and
Uh,
to print news from India that time in
yeah.
1672 that news is printed
Wow.
with in newspapers. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It is. Wow. You as a historian, you should have a lot of fun. How long did Maratha Empire last after Shivaji Maharaj? Like until what years were like?
So Shivaji Maharaj passed away in 1680s.
Hmm.
After that, there was this 20-30 years of great chaotic period when
Hmm.
Sambhaji passed away, Rajaram Maharaj passed away, Tarabai tried to defend, and then we have Shahu coming down. But then the inspiration was still there, and we see that Sambhaji's son Shahu Maharaj was reinstated as the king,
Okay.
and he passed on the power to Peshwas, who were his prime ministers, and Maratha Empire. So Peshwas and other commanders like Shindes and Holkars and Gaikwads, they spread all over India. So we have in Baroda we have Gaikwads, in
Okay.
Indore we have Holkars, in
Okay.
Gwalior we have all these Chauhan and Chauhan people and so on,
Yeah.
and Shindes, etc. So until 1818, we see that the Maratha Empire continued.
Okay.
But
Right.
later on, all these divisive policies by colonial rulers who were trying to take one kingdom after the other, they had also severely weakened the center. Already the Mughals were in that sense, after 1830s, 40s, they were under Maratha Empire's protection. So there is, and there was this pact which, when the Shahu Maharaj, the Sambhaji's son, was released, they made a pact that the Marathas will not rebel against Mughals. This was after
Okay.
Aurangzeb.
Okay.
So they kind of provided protection to the Mughals. So
Okay.
even if you see during Panipat, War of Panipat in 1761, Maratha power gathered the Indian rulers and armies to fight against Abdali and the outsiders as
Okay.
India. So
As
there
India.
was
Good.
this thought of nationalistic thought was also there, that we
Okay.
have to defend our country and
Right.
get everyone under
So they
our
got united and then they actually
yes,
defended.
yes, yes.
Wow. That's
So, but again, there are these people who are divisive and they would,
yeah, all the
come
politics
and
and
you look at some petty benefits and run away. So
yeah.
that happened. Unfortunately, we lost Panipat. But even Marathas were able to take over the territory which was lost during Panipat later in 10 years.
Okay.
But the later Peshwa rulers were not that able, and we see that in 1818 Britishers took over the Maratha Empire and essentially took over the India, because
Yeah.
2/3 of India was ruled over by Marathas.
Okay. And then Rani Lakshmibai, when did she come into the
That
picture?
was in 1857.
But she is fighting for the Marathas, right?
She is fighting for her own kingdom, but she comes from Maratha family. Yes.
She comes from Maratha family.
Yes, but as I said, that after the Maratha kingdom was lost, there was still there this fire burning in people, that how can this colonial power come and rule over us? So there has been this multiple incidents of rebel, and one of the major rebel was this 1857, when in order to reinstate Bahadur, so Bahadur Shah, who was the last Mughal, came together with Rani Lakshmi Bai, came together with Nana Sahib Peshwa, the descendant of Peshwa, who ran to Nepal also to and then there's Tata Tope and all sorts of people in North who are fighting for the rule.
Yeah.
That
So
but
like in all this, what would you say are the like very important factors of Shivaji Maharaj which we should learn from him, like those values? Because I see that he's very smart, he's very observant, because he's not an engineer, but he knows how to do it. He must have been observing people and learning things, right? And the way he was mixing up with people, and then when you're mixing and doing that, you learn from each other.
yes,
He was not sitting on the top and then giving orders, then you don't know anything, and then you could be cheated upon as well. So what are those important ethics and values, and which actually has, we remember him to this day with such pride? Anybody who talks about Shivaji Maharaj talks with pride. What are those values?
So So if you look at his entire life, it is filled up with this very heroic episode. So bravery was one point definitely which he had. But there were many rulers who were brave. Even Sambhaji Maharaj is as brave as Shivaji Maharaj.
Yeah.
But what I would say is the vision. Vision to lay the foundation of a self-rule or a Swaraj. Sambhaji Maharaj was as brave as Shivaji Maharaj. But what Shivaji Maharaj had was the vision of founding that empire which was based on self-rule. So it was, though he was a monarch, I would not say that there was a democracy, but he considered that welfare of state and the masses was the prime most importance. And he made changes. See, he was not Raja Harishchandra who was just giving away with his wealth. He was very shrewd diplomat. He was a statesman. He know when to, take one foot behind and, stay, be patient, wait for your opportunity, and also when to attack. So he never wavered. He never wavered from his goal. I think that was one very important thing.
Yeah, I think the tactics as well, right? The tactics how you used.
Yes.
I think you tell me. You have to tell me this. He never took his whole army into one warfare situation and people got killed or anything like that. It was always with the how do you put this? Like some member of people, like little numbered people going and then using the tactic and getting what they want.
So this guerrilla warfare that we associate Shivaji Maharaj is based on that. You have minimum investment or minimum losses and damages and you achieve maximum. But in that you actually put in all what you have. Not just himself, but even his members of the team were that reliant. And to make one person like that it can be a lifelong task. To make hundreds of people like that, to make such an army of dedicated people who believe in your cause is a great feat in itself. Today we see the kind of leaders that we have who change their word, who flip, who change parties, who go back on their word, who don't think that they owe anything to people. Here a monarch who was actually an absolute ruler and king still went ahead and did all this. There's so much
and one more thing, he was not a king initially.
He was a self-made king.
He was a self-made king who created an empire with that.
And I mean, there are many themes that one can, like the forts, the navies, the taxation system, the overhaul of the entire administration system that he came out. Even this entire respect for women, its respect for different creeds, different saints. And he, as I said, he was someone who also questioned. He had his own thinking. He did not believe what people told him. He had his own thinking. So if people dissuaded him from something, he will give a thought as to whether I should really not do it or can I do it in certain different way. So that ingenuity was what he was trained. And I think being out in Sahyadris and actually taking real life experiences was something that was very important in his younger years, that might have trained him to adapt to the situations that he saw. See, what we can talk about is also how we look at Shivaji Maharaj today.
Yes.
We cannot recreate that medieval times now. That would be not a very great thing to do.
But actually that's so true how you said that, how you have to implement that in this era, like what he did and how he did.
Look, recontextualizing Shivaji Maharaj in 21st century is something that we need to do in a proper manner. So there are many people who teach Shivaji Maharaj's management techniques as well. But there's a lot to learn. And one thing I thought is not to make him into a god. He's not a god. He's a human being who could do all this, which was almost godlike.
Yes.
We have to treat him as a human, and also not classify.
That's more achievable, isn't it? If you're God and doing things, it's not. But being a human and doing things like that is more than that.
So coming from a totally adverse background and trying to assert one's vision is not an easy task, and one can do that. And that is what one should learn. Instead of, today we get totally influenced by all sorts of celebrities, influencers, leaders, this, that. And we just aim mindlessly. This person did not ever do that. I think. So we should be able to learn from Shivaji with open eye and the observance that he had. The ingenuity that he had, questioning everything. trying to go beyond. And this, it's not just bravery in battlefield, it is a courage to meeting person like Mughal Aurangzeb or Afzal Khan, trying to play coy, trying to play tactics. It takes a very different level of courage, I would say.
Yes.
And of course, a great diplomat, I would say.
Yeah, and he knew when to take when to take a step back, and then he knows when to come 100 steps forward.
Yes. And one thing I liked about him is he never, put burden on the treasury. Though he had a small state, he did not took unnecessary loans. In fact, he made sure that he gained, whether it is through loot or through revenue or anything. He was a very practical guy. He knew how much he can spread his wings, and he tried to do that. He was not an overachiever or just a dreamer.
Yeah.
He can just be a dreamer and daydream about.
He was not going and conquering everything. He's actually making sure his state is prosperous.
That was a very strong it's very strong hold that he had. There is a very secure kingdom that he had. Though it was a very small kingdom, it managed to expand into a 2/3 of India. That itself tells about the importance and how strong it was, and deep rooted the values of Swarajya. One can actually go through all his writings, his original writings, his letters he has written for people, to people. Even this Rajya Vyavhar Kosh, Ajnapatra, he's talking about environment. He's talking about how you conserve trees on forts, what trees you should plant, how you should not touch the farmers' crops and not trade them. So he has punished people for doing that. And he had he's so, the attention to details is so much that you should not let, so all the lamps in the fort should be extinguished if some mice or some mouse takes it, a rat takes it and spreads it across, it will burn the entire thing. How to look after the arms and armory. He has written all these small details. So a good housewife has a lot to learn from that, or someone who
that is so surprising, isn't it? As a king, going to that detail of trees and then lamps and crops. They just concentrate on the main level things, right? Who goes to that level?
And he never rested in his life. I don't see him really relaxing. It is very difficult to imagine Shivaji Maharaj relaxing and indulging into things. Even if you see his palace or his forts, they're so rugged. They're very basic, functional minimum. He knew what he wanted, and he felt that he was kind of answerable and accountable to his janata, the masses. Wow. That was, I think, very important. Lot to learn. Huge feats to fill up. I mean, we know it's very difficult. One can
where are his handwritten letters and everything right now, to this date?
They're distributed all over museums and collections. But they are printed as well. One can.
Is there any book of all his letters and his writings of such that viewers could get?
Yes, one of my scholar friend, Dr. Anuradha Kulkarni, she has print Shivaji Maharaj's Patre volumes in three different volumes. So you can go through those.
Okay, we'll just share that also.
And now quite a lot of material is being translated into English as well for non-Marathi people. So even that should be there.
That will be better, right? People like us,
yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saili. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You actually educated me, because see, as a kid, we know a little bit about Shivaji Maharaj. Even if I'm from the South, we do have it in our history textbooks and all, but not as much as, because I wanted to see his vision, exactly what you were talking about, why and how. Not just this happened in this year, that vision of how he was going across.
No. I'm happy to talk about Shivaji Maharaj. He's my idol, actually.
Thank you so much, Saili. Please do subscribe to the show. We have amazing podcasts coming up. So please do subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you.